Are you looking for higher protein and healthier wraps than the ones you get in the supermarket? Well, you're in the right place. Today I've got 3 amazing recipes for you making wraps out of alternative ingredients. First out of lentils, then out of black beans, and finally out of tofu. So grab yourself an apron and let's get cooking.
These red lentil wraps are high in protein, gluten-free and super versatile, and they only need 2 ingredients. We're going to start by getting our red lentils into a jug or a bowl, and we're going to pour over the vegetable stock and let them soak for 4 hours or overnight. After soaking the lentils, we're going to transfer them to a blender and add a couple of optional ingredients. I'm going to add some spinach to add a lovely green colour to the wraps, and then a little lemon zest to give them a nice zing. You can flavour these any way you like with spices, herbs, or even some beetroot to make them into beautiful red wraps. Then just some salt and pepper, and we're going to blend it until we've got a beautiful smooth green batter ready to be fried. Heat up a frying pan over a medium-low heat. We're going to put a touch of olive oil in there just to make sure the wraps don't stick. We'll then put a couple spoonfuls of the batter into the pan, and we're going to spread it out with the back of the spoon until we have a nice even wrap. I found it doesn't really work using the pancake method where you tilt the pan. Simply use the back of the spoon and gently move it around, being careful not to break through the wrap. If you do have holes in your wrap, don't worry, just pour in a little bit of extra batter and fill in the gaps. Cook the wrap for a couple minutes on the first side. You'll start to see the edges start to peel up. You can then turn it over and cook it for a couple more minutes. I like to then put my wraps into a tea towel. This will stop them from drying out and keep them nice and flexible. Cook all your batter. You should get around 8 wraps from this recipe, perfect for a meal prep or just for a few friends or family.
So there's your lentil wrap. It's beautiful and green. Of course, you don't have to put spinach in it if you don't want to. It's also super flexible, as you can see, so your filling's not gonna like break out of it when you go to fill it. Let's give it a quick taste. It's got a really light texture. I feel like the lemon really brightens it up, and it's got a slight earthiness from the lentils.
Next up, we're making wraps out of black beans and just a few other ingredients. These are protein and fiber packed and of course super delicious. Into a food processor, get your black beans, salt and pepper and a little drizzle of olive oil. Then a couple of flavorings. I'm going to add some lovely fragrant cumin and some smoky spicy chipotle paste. Then add half the water and we're going to blend this into a rough paste. This should only take a minute or 2. We'll then add the wholemeal and plain flour and blend it for another minute. Then add the second half of the water. We're going to continue blending it until it forms a nice pliable dough. Get your black bean dough out onto a chopping board and we're going to give it a quick knead just to bring it together. Then cut your dough into 6 pieces. We're going to roll them into balls and then just make sure they're roughly all the same size. I found with this dough I didn't need to use any extra flour while rolling them out, but if they are sticking, just add a little light dusting. To roll them out, I like to go from the middle up and then from the middle down, applying an even amount of pressure. I'll then flip it about 90 degrees and then repeat the process. Keep rolling out, going as thin as possible without breaking the wrap. If you're not going to cook them straight away, then keep them in between pieces of parchment paper to stop them from sticking to each other. We'll then heat a frying pan over a medium heat. If you've got a cast iron one or a non-stick one, then you shouldn't need to use any oil for these. Cook them for a couple of minutes on the first side. You'll start to see bubbles appear and the edges start to lift. Flip it over and cook it for a couple more minutes. The end result will be these beautiful toasted wraps ready for your filling of choice.
You can really taste the cumin and the chipotle in this. It's got a lovely earthy, slightly chewy texture, slightly more substantial than like a normal plain wrap, and it'd be great with some chili or something like that in there.
For this final wrap recipe, we'll be making tofu wraps and we'll be flavouring them with parsley and garlic. So finely chop some parsley. We'll then get it into a bowl with some plain flour, some wholemeal flour, and then the silken tofu. The silken tofu is what's going to provide the moisture for this dough, so we won't need to add any extra water. The great thing about these wraps is they don't require any kind of mixer. You don't need a food processor or a blender. We'll then zest in 1 clove of garlic and add a little salt and pepper. You can start by mixing the dough with a spoon. We're also going to add a little drizzle of olive oil, but eventually you will have to get your hands in there. Dust your worktop with flour. We're going to knead the dough just for a few minutes to bring it together. The method I like to use when kneading dough is to push the dough with one hand and pull with the other. You'll then fold it over on itself, turn it 90 degrees and repeat the process. Once you've got nice smooth dough, pop it back into the bowl and we're going to let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes before we roll them out. Just like with the black bean wraps, we're going to cut the dough into 6 roughly equal portions and roll them into balls. This dough is slightly stickier than the black bean dough, so you might need a little extra flour while rolling them out. Once again, we'll be getting them as thin as possible, just without breaking them. Heat up your pan over a medium heat. We're going to cook these for a couple of minutes on each side, and you should smell the fragrant garlic and parsley coming out now. I think these wraps would work great wrapped around some crispy falafels, some creamy hummus, and some lovely roasted vegetables.
So there we have the tofu wrap. It's lovely and flexible, so it's not going to break when you get your favourite filling in there. Give it a quick taste. It's just like any other tortilla, but you've got the garlic and the parsley going through it, which is really nice. and it's slightly more substantial than your normal like white tortilla. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do share it with anyone who you think would enjoy it, and I'll see you in a new video very soon. Bye bye.